Okay, we are back. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. I sound like the guy from the Truman Show. Okay, so today we are going to continue on with what we talked about last week, which was basically building static sites with Eleventy and then deploying those to AWS using Ampt. And then using HTMX to render or progressively enhance those pages. So, and then we're using Hono on the back end as the API or the web framework in order for us to dynamically create some of these things. And the idea behind this is simply to say, and again, if you're not familiar with HTMX, take a look at it. It's very, very cool. Essentially, what it does. If I can just find my mouse here. Essentially what it does is it gives you, let's see, htmx.org. It gives you the ability to swap out elements on an HTML page, right? So you just use hypertext. So rather than you making a request to the server and grabbing some JSON or some sort of data that you're going to process, and then using the front end to figure out how to actually get it into the DOM, using something like React or Vue or some other reactive framework, rather than doing that, just return the HTML that you actually, or the hypertext that you actually want to use. And it's kind of a crazy idea. I mean, this is what we sort of used to do way back in the day, before we had React and some of these other frameworks. So anyways, take a look at HTMX. There's so many capabilities here. I've barely scratched the surface with this, just doing some of the easier stuff with it, but it gets pretty complex, or it can get complex, but still easy. Is that the right way to say it? There's a whole book on this that you can look up as well. The other framework that we're using is Hono. So Hono just announced version 4. Which is kind of cool that they're doing something a little different with version 4. They're adding something called Hono X, which I think is sort of the next, is the next sort of step in their. There's some other framework that they built around this, but essentially going to allow you to do some static site rendering, but then be able to use JSX and all kinds of cool stuff. So anyways, it's a very good framework. I've been using this now. It is super lightweight, which is great. Feels very much so like Express, just without all that heaviness. It uses fetch, web standards on the back end, so that it just uses add event listener and listens for fetch events, which integrates really nicely with most modern sort of platforms, and as well as the way that Ampt processes things. So anyway, so some cool things that you can do with those. We'll leave those open because we probably are going to be referring back to those docs in a minute. Okay, so let's talk about what we did last week and just sort of go through that quickly. And by the way, if you are out there in any of the, we're live on Twitter, not Facebook. I was going to say Facebook. Who's on Facebook? Maybe your grandmother. Sorry, we are on Twitter. We're on Twitch. We're on YouTube, and we are on LinkedIn. So please feel free to comment, ask questions. I will do my best to answer them. I do not know everything, and this is live programming, so anything can happen. Okay, so what we did last week is we created an Eleventy, or we created an Ampt project. We called it Eleventy demo, but then actually deployed it, I believe, as Eleventy blog. But essentially what we did is this is just your standard Eleventy site, or your standard Eleventy project. We put all of our files in the site or underscore site directory just to keep them organized. Just makes it easier to keep them separate from our backend. Because one of the things that's very, very cool about Ampt is you can have your backend and your front end just mixed together, one mono repo that allows you to sort of do both things and deploy them both the same URL, which is also nice because then you don't need to worry about cores and some of those other things in terms of like crossing the domains. Okay, so let's just go over this quickly, show you what we did. So we have a underscore site directory. We've configured our Eleventy. I'll make this a little bit bigger so we can see this. So we created an eleventy.config file, just an Eleventy, but it's a config file. We're using this create proxy middleware. This was something where we now are setting the server option to listen to anything /API. We're going to reroute that to localhost on the port that Ampt exposes. So behind the scenes, Ampt is spinning up a proxy for you on localhost on a specific port, and then you can use this to just route anything. So then from our local dev server, anything that goes to /API will get routed to the back end to our live sandbox URL, which is super helpful. And then we just set the template engine to be NJK for HTML files. Our input directory is the site_site directory. We're going to output everything to static. Something that came up last week that somebody mentioned was that somebody was working with another framework and they were having an issue with this. So one of the things we do with our static file, serving static files. So by default, anything you put into the /static directory in the root of your project, all of those files will get deployed. They get written to an S3 bucket, and then there is a manifest that's built, and they're routed to those so that it doesn't have to go through the Lambda function. It's just it's very, very fast. It's all done at the edge, and all with an edge router that takes care of that for you. Not everybody can change what their static assets folder is. Sometimes it has to be something different, like assets, for example. So we did add the ability, we documented the ability. This has been available for a very long time. But if you do want to change your static directory and figure out or change which directory the static assets are loaded from, you can just go ahead and add an array on the static setting within the Ampt on your package.json. So that is, if you go back here in your package.json, you can put, there's this Ampt key here, or Ampt section, and you name your app, you say which org your app is involved with. You also have the runtime and the build runtime you can specify there, and you can also specify the static directories. It'll always pull from static, by the way, but you can add additional ones that it will come off of. Okay, so let's see where we were. Okay, so we were going through this file here. And then we have our _layouts file, or _layouts directory that is just some layouts that we can use, which we created our base layout here that allows us to load files, that we wrap everything in sort of this main container here. Okay, so we installed Tailwind. So we did everything on the Tailwind side of things. We created a 404 file with a permalink at 404. We have our index file here where we're using front matter to load base, the base layout, and then putting some information in there. We'll go through this again and we can look at it in a minute. Node modules, our static directory is generated every time we run the build step or when we're watching our Eleventy project, because we don't want to put anything in the static file, static folder, anything that we want to do, maybe a pass through. If we want to pass through images or other files, we can do that all with Eleventy. But we want to build this static directory fresh every time so that we have some consistency there. We got our git ignore, and then we have our index file. So our index file, or index.ts, this is a TS project. You can do this in JS. I like using TS for Hono just because we're going to do some of the JSX stuff, which does require that you use the TypeScript version of it. But it is very cool. And again, it's fairly simple. TS is just taken care of for you, by the way, when you build with Ampt. You don't have to worry about ESBuild or doing any of those things. You can just literally run just a TS file, and we'll take care of it when it's deployed or when it's served up. So you don't have to worry about that. So just quickly here, we created, if you remember, or if you go back and watch last week's episode, we brought in Hono, we brought in this streaming service, or the streaming helper here. We brought in HTTP from the SDK, and then we brought in some of these HTML helpers from Hono. We created 2 versions of Hono. Again, it's so lightweight. This is sort of a really great, I like the way they do this. Think of it maybe as like sort of the way that like routers work with Express, right? You just create a new version of or a new instance of Hono, and then you can attach routes to it, and then you can go ahead and take those routes and attach them onto the main one. So that's what we did here. So we created an app and an API. API's got our post, and then we attach API to the app route, and then we have this default app route that catches everything, that reads the 404 for us as a readable stream, spits out the HTML back to us using using a stream, the way that works, and then that spits out, and then we just call this app.fire, which essentially just calls the event listener, the add event listener behind the scenes that listens for the fetch event. So that takes care of all of the routing for us. Okay, and that's pretty much it. And then we did this. This is again just the post CSS config file for Eleventy. Our README file is just a README file. Our Tailwind config, what we are doing here is we are watching for any content in the within the site directory. So anything we put in the site directory, we want to make sure that we grab those styles so we can generate the style sheet for us, and also in the index.ts. So that way, if we put anything in that index.ts file, we want to be able to load that information as well. We're going to do something with components in a minute, so we'll have to come back and change this. And then our TS config, this should just be super simple, right? We're including any TS files as part of this. We're excluding the node module, and then again, none of this really matters much. If you're familiar with TypeScript, you can play around with that and do all kinds of fun things, but we shouldn't have to worry about it. Okay, so now we've got this up and running. If we look at our layouts, we have our base file here, which is just our sort of wrapper that passes the content in, and then we have our index file that we load some content in here. So we're going to start this up by running ampt dev. You would have Ampt, the Ampt CLI installed and running in your on your machine. That's really all you have to do. That's the only thing you have to install is just the Ampt CLI. So this will go ahead and connects us to our personal sandbox of Eleventy blog. We have our dashboard here, and then if you remember, actually I should show you this so that we remember. So we created two scripts in our package.json file. One called Eleventy that runs this Eleventy serve that will run the project, so it'll give us that live dev server to play around with locally. And then this other one that watches any changes to the main.css file, and it will go ahead and output this to styles.css. This is the way that it works. Again, this is linked with all of the styles that Tailwind picks up and so forth, so it will go ahead and regenerate that for us automatically. Okay, so that runs at, oh, and then, sorry, forgot to mention this. So we run this ampt dev. This does this run p dev thing. This is this npm run all package that just runs multiple, it will run multiple watchers in parallel for you, well, multiple scripts, but in this case, we're using it for watchers. So that should be pretty straightforward. Okay, so now we have our site up and running at our remote URL here. This is our personal sandbox, and then we have our local host running. So this is what's being generated by the Eleventy dev server. So let's open this up first. If you remember, we built this beautifully designed blog here that essentially what it's doing is, if we look at the actual code, oops, I don't want to inspect it. Let's look at the, and I just closed it. All right, let's try that again. I'll open this up. Let's view source. So we'll view the page source. So this is the source of our document. Now, again, remember this little thing here, this little module that's being inserted. This is the reload client that Eleventy is doing. So that's being injected automatically for us within the head. But basically, it's just loading our file. So we're spinning back our blog. With this little span that has an X in it, and then we're saying hello from Eleventy, and then we have a button here. Well, it's not a button anymore, we changed it, but essentially this is going to, when it loads, it's going to do a delay of 2 seconds. Once this is visible, this will post to API/clicked, and it will swap the outer HTML. So that is what is giving us this effect right here, is that this is waiting 2 seconds, and then that is refreshing. And then if you remember what we're actually getting for a request here, so if we inspect this, let's look at the network tab. So we'll do a refresh here. So this does the initial doc load here, which is the local host one, with the response being that HTML document that we're getting. So this is the static file that's being returned to us, and then we have it doing this fetch event here, which is clicked, and this is giving us back what it's going to swap out, and then it's doing this out of band, this HX out of band swap. That's pretty cool as well. So all right, so that's and then again, how we do that, just go back and look, go back to our index. So we've got this API clicked that is swapping out. These are our comments and the swap here is spitting back. So this is all straightforward. I hope it's straightforward. There's nothing overly complex happening here in terms of HTMX, basic HTMX, this basic Hono, and basic Eleventy. So there is a lot to learn when you're building with all these different technologies. But the nice thing about it is you just drop it into Ampt and it works for you. So all right, so we loaded the localhost version. So just quickly before we move to doing something else, remember we did generate this URL, or we do have this URL, which is our personal sandbox. So if we open this URL here, we'll get the same exact thing. This will load. This is actually loading live from the from AWS, from an AWS account, and all the components and everything is set up to make this work. So that's loading from there, and also we have our environment. Our dashboard, where we can go in and we can actually see all the things that are happening here. So if we go into logs, for example, we will see these requests. So we've got our, loading our static asset for the CSS styles. We've got all of these click events and so forth. So those are all happening for us. And I think I explained this last time. So these post events, any type of HTTP event, those will show here. You will see those in your you will see those in the logs. These static requests, these are typically picked up at the CDN, so you wouldn't see these once you get into a production or a preview stage. But it is pretty handy to have that as part of the dev stage, so that or it's part of your personal sandbox, so that you can debug those and see which static assets are loading and things like that. Okay, all right, so enough talk. Let's see if we can do some stuff now. So first of all, I want to go back, not that I absolutely hate how pretty this is here, but I want to make this into something a little bit more usable, so that we can have something better to work with here. So, all right. So our blog, this looks terrible. So what I'm going to do is, actually, this is a good question. I meant to look this up, but let's check. Is there a way to disable, is there a way to disable HTMX temporarily? I don't know. Let's see. If not, we'll just take it out, but HX disable. So this will disable HTMX for a given element and all its children. Okay, so perfect. So, that's actually pretty cool. All right, so what we want to do here is I want to copy this HX disable, and I'm going to go into my base template over here, and how do I hide that? There we go. Go into my base template here, and on the body, I'm going to add HX disable, and that's just, is that what you do? You just put it there? Like that. Let's see. All right, so I'm going to close this one, by the way. This is the remote version. I just care about the local version right now. So, oops, I opened that in a new window, which I didn't want to do. There we go. Okay, so now if I refresh this should not load. Perfect. Okay. All right, cool. And then how this should work. Let's see. I figured there was a way to do that. The libraries. So now save this, and that would refresh the page. And did that not work? Oh, yeah, that worked. Okay, cool. All right, so I like that HX disable. A nice little feature you have as part of your development. Okay, so now we've got bring this down. All right, so now we've got this horrible looking blog thing over there. This is our base, so we've got our blog. All right, so let's actually add some more, something that makes it look a little bit better. So first of all, I'm going to get rid of this H1 here, and let's do header like this. Oops. Okay, and footer. No, these work. Okay, so I'm going to say copyright. 2024. All right. My blog Inc. Okay. So we'll do that. And then in the header, we'll do something like, let's say, we'll say my blog. And then, And again, and I'm not an expert with Tailwind or any of these things, so I'll probably be looking a bunch of stuff up as we go through. So, all right, header class, let's do BG black, and then let's do, what do we usually use here? Just a div, probably. Oops, just to wrap my content in. Oh, I'm gonna be down here. Okay, make this a little smaller. Probably like a content tag or something. Okay, so we're gonna make that black. We're gonna make the text white to start with, like this, and then we can do H1 my blog like this. And then we should have, I don't know, these should be some links. So I'm just going to do, I know there's all kinds of semantic things you can do, and I wish I knew all of it. So let's just call this a nav. And then, sure, we'll do home. And then, and rather than what we're going to do, I'm going to do a login for now. And let's see if we can get to that as well. Okay, so, all right, already looking much better / uglier. Okay, so with this, I know we want to do, let's see, what am I thinking of? Not a grid. Let's go over to Tailwind and look these things up. Get started. Okay, so we want to do Flexbox. That's what we want to do. I knew, couldn't think of the name of it. All right, so we do flex like this, and then go back to this. All right, so now that will do it that way, and I know there's some way that we can get this fixed. All right, we're going to get rid of this here because we don't. Actually, you know what we'll do is we'll do BG slate. Let's say 300. Oh, it's too dark. Let's try 200. Okay, right, we just don't want it to be too dark. Okay, and then this way we can put all of our padding and stuff here. So we'll just do P3 for now there, and then in the content section we can do P5 maybe. We can clean that up. Oop. Helps if you do this. Okay, that gives us that, and then in the footer, I think we can do, I don't know if we want to make this sticky and push it to the bottom. I'm not going to worry about it now. All right, let's do P3 here as well, and then background can be black, and text can be white. You can see all of my amazing skills here, and then let's do text center. Sure. This is a great plugin, by the way, that does all your Tailwind styles. All right, so save this. All right, so we've got this. Okay, it's already looking better. Already looking better. Okay, so then in terms of flex, there is a way that we can space this out, right? So flex auto, item grow and shrink. Yeah, so let's do, I think if we make nav, we do flex. Put that class in there. Flex auto. Is that what we want? Will that help us? No. And there's a way to like space them. If anybody's watching that's a Tailwind person, please feel free to comment and let me know how to do some of this stuff. Okay, hold on. I want to do, it's kind of hard on us when I have it shrunk down like that. All right, so flex, we do flex grow. Is that the one? No, I don't want that. Flex basis, I don't want that. Flex direction, flex wrap, flex 1. Okay, I thought there's like a way to justify. That's what maybe justify, start, center, end, space between, space around, stretch. Yeah, let's try that one. See what happens. So we'll do five. stretch. I always like to throw a border in sometimes to figure out why my CSS isn't working. Okay, so that's clearly not working there, but I thought if we do flex, this should take all of these items and make them flexible, or do the flexbox thing, right? Flex, justify evenly. They don't have to be divs, I don't think. Just bear with me while we figure this out. Flex. Right, these don't have to be divs. Justify, stretch. Oh, we know that's filling the whole space. Flex. Again, I don't think this is right. This is why yeah, so it's still doing that for some reason. So maybe I have to do, I know that this doesn't matter. These don't have to be in divs. I know that. Let's try this. Flex. No, flex 1. There we go. Okay. All right. Well, that did something. Good. All right. So that is better. Okay. All right. So we've got this working now to some degree, and I'm going to get rid of the border here because we don't need that. And we've got our home link that takes us back to home, and then our login link that takes us to a page that doesn't exist. Okay. All right. So here we go. Looking interesting now. All right, so let's do this. So we got a relatively okay looking thing. I get that the classes of this don't look great, and eventually we probably want to turn this into a button or something, and we'll do some stuff with that. All right, so let's open this back up and go into our index here, and then we will say, okay, so hello from Eleventy. So this is going to be, I'm going to say, welcome to our blog, like this. All right, so welcome to our blog. Let's put a span around this. And we will class equals text about purple. And font bold. Okay, so here we go. So welcome to our blog. This is, okay, so this is, by the way, I was zoomed in there, which is why it was a little bit bigger. Right, so that'll give us the ability to do that. So that looks a little small, so I'm just going to zoom in for now. Okay, so now remember we disabled this, so this isn't going to load anything. All right, so what we want to do here is we want to, rather than loading comments, for example, let's do something like, okay, so actually here's what we're going to do. This is going to be good. So we're going to go ahead and use the database to create a couple of blog entries, and then we will, or actually we don't even need to use the database. We're going to use the built-in features of Eleventy to do this, and we're going to load, we'll load a list of blog posts. So let's do this. Let's go over to here and let's create a new folder, and we're going to call this posts. And then in posts, we're going to create a new file called post1, and let's see, let's try it with MD here. Okay, so we need to create, let's do this, some front matter. So we want the layout to be base for now, and we can create another layout actually if we want to that we can use for, and I know there's a way too, you could, in this post directory you can have a .posts JS or config file or JSON file that you can put all this stuff in by default, but we'll just do it manually this way. So title, and we're going to say this is our first post. And then let's do, and then we'll do, this is our first post. Okay, save that. All right, so let's see if this did what we think it was going to do. So it went ahead and created a underscore site post1. So in our static directory over here, we now have a /post and post1. So we should be able to go to this and see post/post1 like this. And here we go. Here's our first post. Okay, so we could do something like this and say, oh, actually, you think? Yeah, you can't do it with this though, right? So you have to do, I don't think you can do these. Can you do? I don't know. I don't think you can do this. No, look at that. Did that work? Yeah. Oh, well, I didn't know you could do that in there. So, okay, but we're not getting any H1 styles. Okay, right, because we don't have any H1 styles. So we could do this, by the way. We could go into our CSS file up here, main, and then if we wanted to, we could say that all H1s, for example, we would apply, apply allows us to apply it to any styles that, we can use any of the styles that Tailwind spits out for us. So, okay, so, all right, so now we have it being applied to this H1 as well. So we're getting that text size there, and then we've got this as our first post. So let's actually do this. Let's do text, font bold as well, like this. And now we'll get, so that's bold, and then we get my blog in bold. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our base here, and then we're just going to say that we want text to be 2XL here, and that should override it for us. Okay, so actually let's just make it XL like this. Okay, all right. Here's our first post. This is our first post. All right, so that's cool that we can do that, but what I want to do is actually create another layout file. So I'm just going to do a new layout, new file here, and I'm going to call this, I don't know why it does this sometimes. Let's try it again. So this is going to be post.html like this, and then in this one we will use base like this. So we'll say base, layout base like that, and then we will go ahead and do H1, and it should be, I'm going to put a div here, just so this should just pull down whatever we spit through, and then this will be content like this. And then let's change the color of this to, I don't know, I don't want to do red, maybe do like a nice blue. Sure, we'll make it a blue color. Why not? Okay, so save this. All right, so this won't change anything. We've just created another file here. But if we go into our post here, and rather than using base, we want to use post like this. And then again, we'll go into our post file here, and we don't need this title because we're going to generate the title automatically like that. Now we've got this taken care of, and then anytime we want to change these posts, like for example, maybe we want to add a class and add a little bit of vertical spacing, so we'll do py of say 3, save that, and now we get some spacing there. Okay, and then we could also do something, I don't know, let's say ref, and we'll say home, and then I don't know, can we insert some sort of a arrow emoji? Why not make it fun like that? Okay, and then let's just wrap this in a div as well so that this pushes down. Okay, so now we've got this link to home. We click on this, we go back to our blog there. Okay, so now let's go ahead and copy this, and then we'll paste paste this in and post 2. And this is our second post. Section. Hello. Test. Okay, so now we should have a second post there, and then we will copy and paste this again. And this one we will make our third post. You can name these anything we want, by the way. I'm just using post 1, 2, 3 just to keep it relatively simple. And then I'll just say our third post. Okay, so we've got these posts now. So now we should have, if we go into posts, we've got post 1, we've got post 2, and we've got post 3. Okay, so now if we want to actually show these posts, so one of the things we can do, if I remember how to do this, I think you just do posts.json like this. Is it .json? Maybe. And then in here you can add things like I think you have to do layout, and we want the layout to be posts or post, and then we want a tag, and we want the tag to be blog, or maybe call it post, I guess. Okay, so do that and post, and then I think if we were to go to our home page here, let me see if we have, I think it's collection dot, I'm gonna figure this out. Let's go to Eleventy. Eleventy Milano. Oh, this definitely is not, this is not where we wanted to go. Try this one. Okay, that's better. All right, so we want to do collections. I think we're on the docs page here. So collections. Here we go. Okay, so collections.post. For post, so tags post. All right, so I think if we do collections dot post, is that what we did? What did we call this? Post. Okay. All right. Did that do anything? Back to our home page. I'm not sure if that works right. Let's try this just so that we know that there would be something in post if we put that here. Okay, so nothing's showing up there, so let me just check index. So you single tag post. This will place myself in the post collection with all of the pieces of content sharing the post tag. To reference the collection, make a list of all of these. Okay, so why don't we do this and see if this works instead of me just that post in collections. Oh, collections post. Okay, all right, that's what I was doing wrong. Still not doing anything. All right, so for some reason that's not working, but I know it should. For post in collections post. Let me try deleting this. This might be screwing us all up. Who knows? Post. And is it tags? I could be getting this wrong too. Tags. Okay. Hold on. See if this will. All right. Let's try this. This. Okay. That's not working there, but let's just do this and see if this does anything. Ah, okay. All right. Well, I know there's a way to do this. I don't know. I'll figure it out someday. But basically what we want to do is let's just make sure we put tags in all of this. Save that and save this. Okay. All right. So refresh. Okay. So now we've got that working there. What time is it here? 11:40. Austin, here, we'll bring you up here, bud. Austin wants some of that Eleventy Milano swag. Yeah, that's good stuff. All right. Okay, so let's see. All right, we got that working. We got all those showing up there. Let's go back to our index file here and get rid of. Oh, we did get rid of test, right? Did we? Okay, so here is our post there, and then we can actually link to these with an href here. Hide that, sorry. Okay. Like this, and then I believe it is just post dot, is it URL? It's one of these. Yeah, post.url. Look at that. I was right. Okay, perfect. So, all right. So this is all now hooked up. Let's add a class just so that these look a little bit better. We'll do text underline, or is it just underline? Underline. Okay, we'll do underline there, and then class pb1. All right, so now we've got a little bit of space there, and then I'm going to hide. Let's get rid of this for a second. Okay. What did I do? Oh, because it's HTML. Okay. All right, so we've got this now. We can go to these different pages. Great. We can see our posts. This is our second post. Home, third post. Okay, good. This is all working now. All right, and if we're on any of these pages, click the home. All right, things are looking good. All right, so now let's do something more interesting than what I just did there. So again, what's nice about this too is that this is localhost, so this is all running on your local host, but this is also at the same exact time being deployed to our developer sandbox. So if we jump over to the developer sandbox and load this up, we'll have this exact same experience up here as well. All right, none of this stuff is dynamic. All right, this is all static stuff. And what we want to do is add a little bit of dynamicism. That's a, I don't even know if that's a word. Anyways, okay, so what can we do here? So let's see. What do I got on my list that I can show? All right, so we want to. All right, let's do some more HTMX, and we can get some of that stuff working. So one of the things that we could do is with our main template here. So let me just close these down. All right, with our base template here. So we have this login button, right? So what we actually want to do though is we want to only show this button if we're logged in or we're not logged in. So let's build that out quickly, because that should be hopefully not too difficult to build out. So let's create a new. Let's see. Oops. That's what I want. Here we go. All right. So let's create a new file. Here we will file save as login.html, and then here we'll say login to our blog, and then let's just create a people still use paragraph tags? Is that still a thing? Okay. All right, so remove all this. And then let's create a form, and we won't worry about anything. We're just going to say, let's see, input, text. I could have typed this faster. Okay, and this is going to be username and input password. And this is going to be password. Okay, and then we'll do button. All right, and this will be login. All right, so we should have over here on our login page a very ugly login form, and I'm going to close this down and go back to our thing here. Click login over there. All right, so we got an ugly login form here, so let's go ahead and make this just a little bit nicer. By the way, Eleventy has a whole, not Eleventy, sorry, TypeScript. Tailwind, try that again. Tailwind has an entire forms library that makes formatting forms much nicer, so you don't have to do all this manually. But we're just going to do border and rounded like this. And we'll copy this here. And let's do that here. But we'll do BG. Let's do purple again. 600. Text. White. Oops. And we're going to do PX for PY1. Okay. Oops, we probably just have to refresh. There we go. All right, so still doesn't look great, but it's better than nothing. So we'll just say user name, and password. Okay. All right. So here we go. All right, and then login shouldn't do anything. It's just posting because we're not actually creating anything yet. So so a couple different things that we can do here. So we could just post this to a URL and have it do the redirect and all that kind of stuff if we want to, or we could use HTMX. So if we did, I believe if you do hx post like this, and then we'll just do /API/login like this. And if we were to try this, we can view the network tab over here so we can see what's happening. If we were to do this, oops, I'm only on fetch, hold on, there we go, refresh. All right, so login, this is, oh, hold on. So, oh, it's still, okay, yeah, I think we have to, here. Let's go over to HTMX and search for form. Let's see, inline validation, form, HX post, button, default submit. I think that's what we have, right? Oh, no wonder it's not working, because if y'all remember, I don't know why I said y'all, we disabled HTMX here. So I'm going to disable the disable. All right, that's why it wasn't working. Okay, go back here, refresh, go back to login, and then hit login. Okay, so now this will make this post behind the scenes. That doesn't exist. All right, so let's go ahead and add a login here. So we're going to create a new API.post. And this is going to be /login, and this will return back for us. So let's just do a log, and we'll say, I don't think c.body, this won't work necessarily, but anyways, we're going to return back some HTML. And we'll just do HTML logged. Okay, we'll do that, see what it says. All right, so let's try this. So we hit login. All right, logged in. All right, so that replaced it. Now again, this automatically replaced the outer HTML, or maybe it was the inner HTML. Hold on, what does this do by default? This replaced, yeah, the inner HTML. So it didn't replace the entire form itself, just the inner HTML. Okay, so there's all kinds of things we can do with this. We can do like fragments and some other stuff that would do some things, but I just want to get us actually logged in. And so the way that we'll do the logged in is by setting a cookie, right? So if we go to Hono and we go to some of their helpers, they have this cookie helper. So we can import these here and then go back up here, paste those. We don't want that. And essentially what we want to do is we want to set a cookie. So set cookie here, HTTP only. So let's just grab this. And then in our response for the login, yeah, that's not going to do anything. So we're just going to set a cookie here, and we're going to call it logged in and set this to true. Let's see. Okay, so logged in true, and then the path, we don't need to worry about that. We do want it to be secure. The domain will be set HTTP only, expire, max age 1,000, same site, strict, expires. I'm not going to put that in there. So this should work for us. Okay, so that's it. That's all we should have to do. So if we go back here, go back to log in, go to our network, click log in, says that we're logged in. This is the request that comes back. The headers that came back should have set a cookie for us called logged in. If we go into our application and look at our cookies, we should have a cookie now for localhost that is logged in with a value of true and some other information there. Okay, so now what should happen is if we, let's go back to the home page for a second, because now when we respond back with this, what we were calling clicked before. So we're going to actually make a couple quick changes here. Okay, so on the index page, we commented this out. So here's what we're going to do. We're just going to call this loading. And then rather than API clicked, we're going to call this logged in. Why not? And we don't need a delay, so we'll take the delay off. Okay, so that's going to make a post. Let's just make it a get. It doesn't need to be a post. So this is going to go to logged in and then loading. Okay, so save this. If we go back over to our home page here, this won't work because we're going to get an error because that doesn't exist, right? So we get this logged in that doesn't exist. So we'll come back over here and we will create a new thing called bi.get. And this is going to be logged in like this. And then we are going to return get cookie. We're going to use this get cookie logged in, and it's going to give us a indication as to whether or not we're logged in or not. So now we come over here and we should be able to refresh this, and this says we are logged in, which is true. If we were to come over to our application and into cookies here, and let's clear those cookies and then refresh this page, then nothing would show there. So we can actually say, so get cookie if that's true. Otherwise, so we say, oh yeah, I think you could do or not logged in like this. Okay, let's try that. All right, refresh this, not logged in. All right, but if we go to log in and we log in, again, I know we're not doing anything fancy there, go back to home, now it's going to tell us that we're logged in, it's true. Okay, so this is where the progressive enhancement stuff can come in really, really handy, because now this login button, for example, rather than us serving up the button that says, you know, logged in or whatever, what we can do is now this logged in, we actually want this to load initially when the site when the site loads, and tell us whether or not we're logged in, and then that way we can actually dynamically display something. So if we go back to our base up here, and we've got this login button here, so let's turn this into a button first of all and make it a little bit more exciting. I guess we can leave it as this, but we'll just we'll style it more better. So class, let's do BG. We'll make all of our buttons purple, I guess, for the heck of it. Purple, PX3, and we want PY1 and rounded text white. How are we doing for time? We have not test text white. Okay, so now we've got a little button up there, rounder. How about rounded? That would be better. All right, so we got our login button there, but we don't want this login button to show. We want it to say like dashboard or something like that if we're not there. So what we can do is, rather than doing this login like this, let's take this login button, go back to here, and we'll say, this way we can say, and I'm sure we could do this all multiple ways dynamically, but we're going to say if we're logged in, then we want to return that, else we'll return. It's usually pretty good at giving us stuff that we need to know here. Okay, so if we're not logged in, then we actually want to return this button here that gives us that login. And if we are logged in, then we want to return a similar thing, but we want this to say, rather than login, this will maybe take us to our dashboard or something like that, which we are not going to have yet, but this will say dashboard like this. And then let's make this, we'll make this blue so that we can see the difference like that. Okay. All right. So if we go back to the page here and refresh, this will tell us dashboard because we're logged in. And if we delete this and refresh it, then this will tell us to log in. But we don't want it to appear there. We want it to appear. We want it to appear where the login thing is, or where the actual login button is. So the way that this worked is, again, we just had this div, swap the outer on the load, and with this little pulse link thing. So let's actually just copy this here, and we'll comment it out on this side like this. Okay, and then go to base, and rather than show this login button here, we'll paste this in, and we don't want this to be this big, so let's just do, and we don't want anything in there actually. So we want this to be similar size, so PX1 I think is what we had set, and then the gray, that's fine, and then, or I think it was PX, I don't know, it doesn't matter, PY1. Okay, save that. Okay, so then over here now when we refresh, okay, I don't like how that works because it gives us that weird jump. I'm sure there's probably a way to fix this. Nav class. Oh, because it's a div. Oh, and it's not inline. Okay, so actually, I think if we made this flex, that would work. Right, okay. And then we'd probably have to add some padding to get this to style right. Class, let's do PY1 and P right 2. So let's give some space. Okay. All right, so there we go. Okay, so there's a little bit of a jump there. So we could set the width of it, you know, and probably figure out how to make that less complex. So I don't know, set this as a width of 10. Is that too much? It's probably going to jump the other way. There we go. Okay, well, either way. All right, so now we're not logged in, so it's going to give us this login thing. We click login here. It's still giving us the login. We go ahead to load this. Tells us that we're logged in now. it would probably want to refresh this page, but essentially if we went back to the home page now, this is going to give us our dashboard, right? So it's going to let us know that we're logged in. So again, there's multiple ways with HTMX that you could change the page without having to refresh all the different sections and navigate around. There's some cool things that you can do there, so you wouldn't have to do this every time, but this is just a nice way that sort of gives you that capability there. Okay, I do want to show you, let's see, we are pretty much at time, but I do want to show you a couple more things, and I apologize, it just takes a long time to just kind of go through this stuff. It's kind of crazy. Maybe I need to do like a 10-hour marathon, a marathon blog, or marathon live stream. So actually, Austin asked this question: is this deploying live to the cloud with every change, or running locally? So it's actually doing both. So when we make a change here, this will give us this live look here on localhost so that we can see it. But it actually is also, all of these changes are getting deployed. All the backend changes obviously run in the cloud; those have to run remotely. But all of these changes do happen live as well. So you're actually seeing this here. So this is in my developer sandbox. This is a live URL. If I go to the login page here and then I log in, so now it says that I'm logged in. If I go back to that home page there, now that functionality is gonna work. It's gonna give me that dashboard, that dashboard thing there. So anyways, yes, this is locally and live to give you that sort of balanced or that full stack experience. That makes it really easy to do some things. Okay, so I did promise I was going to show some JSX with Eleventy, so with Hono, so I do want to show that pretty quickly. So if we go over to Hono and I think it's under guides, JSX. So if you are using JSX and you want to use JSX with the backend stuff, if you like JSX, I don't know, I can take it or leave it. It is sometimes nice to have that logic built in. So essentially what you need to do is in your compiler options for your React, for your TS config, you come into your TS config, and in the compiler options, you're just going to add these React-JSX and Hono/JSX like that, and then that will give you the ability to actually write functional components, which is pretty cool when you're building things with Hono. So a couple things we can do. Let's just copy this first one here. I'm going to go down the bottom. I think this will work. Where you define them, you want to bring them in sooner. So FC is not a thing. It's not a valid type, so we just need to bring in this functional component type from the Hono helper like this. And so now we have that there. This is saying that it's not assignable to, that a Boolean is not assignable to that. I don't know why that's a Boolean. That's weird. Let's see. Sometimes these things get weird. Return HTML. Let's see. Just going to stop and then start the dev server again. I don't know. This should have nothing to do with this, but who knows? Let's see. I've got my TS config that there. App Hono props. Let's see here. Close these down. Where was I? Index.ts. All right, so why this is being weird. Say props children undefined Boolean is not assignable to type FC Boolean. I don't know why this is returning a Boolean. Maybe take this out, see what it does. Props. Is it type any? Sure. Are we like in strict mode maybe? That could be, or we have to be. I think we have to be in strict mode. Yeah, strict mode is true. All right, so don't know why that's not working. We're importing the type. We're returning All right. Well, I don't know why that. Oh, I do know why that's not working. All right. So if we're gonna use functional components, and you're going to use JSX, then you also have to use TSX in order to actually to do that. So, all right. So I need to change this here to a .tsx file like that. I'm going to say don't update anything that's happening there. This is okay. So then I'm going to get an error in my system because I have to go into package.json and change my entry point to TSX like this. Okay, so that should be a little bit better. So this is giving me intrinsic element HTML. Okay, so I don't know what that is, but let me see. Cannot find name React. Do I have to do something special here? It's possible. Although JSX just modify that, or you could do it that way. Import JSX index. Shouldn't have to find. Install. If there's any dependencies that need to be installed. Right? I'm going to install React. Well, we're getting closer, probably. Let me see. I got another project open over here that, let's see if there's anything in here that types, node, nunjux. Huh. I don't know. So, well, let's keep playing around with it for a few more minutes and see if we can figure this out. So, what if we just use div? It's still going to tell me that there's a, that is not found. Function layout is declared but never used. Okay, that's fine. What if I do api.get /test? That, and return layout. Oh, I think I have to do c.html layout like that. And this is a functional component like that. And so cannot find name React. I don't know why I can't find name React. That doesn't make any sense. Let me just double check my. Try one more thing here and see if maybe this is it. So we need TSX and TSX files here. Okay, this is telling me. Okay. Something it doesn't like. True. All right, well, I think I'm going to waste too much time playing around with this. I don't know why this is not working. It typically does. This is something with my configuration, clearly. I guess I could check my tsconfig and see if I'm missing anything. Oh, this might work, actually. Maybe this is it. I also have it as my index.tsx here. Okay, so that likes that. That's good. Everybody likes when it likes it. Okay. All right. All right. So anyways, so this is, so I'm going to put in just a test here, and then it will spit out the props children. So this is just creating a functional component. All right, we figured it out. And now I have another route that I created, API test, that is just going to spit this out, and I'll just say hello like this. And then we should be able to then go to the live version of this, do API/test like that, and that'll do test hello. Okay, so that functional component is working for us now. Okay, all right, so anyways, once you get that set up and once you get TypeScript to stop yelling at you, it's amazing the kind of things that you can do. Okay, so let's, what was I gonna show you? Okay, so then, so we could request this and we can use these functional components to build things. What's cool about the functional components is when you pass in props, so it's saying props children, right? For example, that's one way that it does it, but you can also, so it's basically taking anything that you wrap, anything in that slot, and that'll put it in there. But you could do other things too, like, so if you wanted to say props dot, name or something like this, then whatever is in, I'll just wrap it in parentheses so you can see it. So props.name. So if this comes over here, this is empty, but then when we actually call this here, then you can just pass in something like, so you could say name equals, Jeremy, save that. And then when you reload this over here, then the name will fill in, which is pretty cool. So you can build these nested, do things nested that way or whatever. So it's cool stuff. All right. So one other thing I want to show you that this is a cool thing that you can do with Hono or with Ampt built in when you deploy things to the CDN and some of these other things that you can do. There's some interesting tricks which really help with the whole idea of progressive enhancement. All right, so I'm just going to show something quickly. When we do, and I'm going to make sure that I have the right thing here. So it would be under, let's see, under CDN and caching. Okay. So under CDN and caching here, one of the things that we do is when you have a permanent stage, okay, so we're in our development sandboxes right now, you can include a cache control header that actually tells CloudFront how long to cache something for, which is pretty cool. And that allows you to basically say, like, oh, I want this to be available for, a minute or 5 minutes or 10 days or whatever you want it to do. It doesn't work in development sandbox because we don't want to cache anything in the development sandbox. We always want that to be fresh for you, but you will get this X cache control thing that will tell you exactly what you need to do, or exactly what you're spitting out as your cache control header. All right, so let's see how we can use that and see why it's pretty cool. Okay, so here's our main page here, right? So we already have this that's loading for us, and this is checking every single time, which is fine. You want that to check every single time. But the other thing that would be really cool to do is to have it load something maybe a little bit more dynamic, but we don't need that to refresh on every single person's load, right? We just need it to happen. Maybe it needs to refresh every minute or every 10 minutes or something like that. That could be anything. That could be like an updated list of news stories, so that way you don't have to hit your database all the time, and can make it super fast for your users because they're getting a cached version of this. And you do this all with just with CloudFront because it's super simple to do, and HTMX really helps here, just the way that it does some of the replacement stuff for you. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create. So actually, let's use this. We'll use this little. Why not? We'll use this for the heck of it. So I'm going to create a, actually, we'll use this. These are our comments one or whatever. But what I do want to do as part of this is I want to generate a timestamp so that we can see when these comments came in or when the last thing was. So I'm just going to do date.now like this. Save this, and then I'm going to go back to our main index page where we had commented this out, and we're going to go ahead and load this, and this was called clicked, so let's call this comments or something like that. We'll save it, go to here, go to comments. All right, this is a post, so this is a GET request, so let's change this to a GET request as well. Hopefully this all makes sense what I'm doing here. All right, then if we come over here and we refresh, we have loading, and then we have our comments. Okay, so this 477, every time I refresh this, you see that this number is changing, right? So here's 257428, 3005. Okay, this is refreshing every time. It's giving us a new number. All right, so what we can do is with this response, we actually want to add a C dot header. And we want this header to be a cache control. And then this is spitting it back as, so let's set this to 10. All right, so what we're saying here is when this responds, also respond with this cache control header that has a max age of 10. So that's just 10 seconds. All right, so save this, come over here. I'm going to refresh this. So this will give us this, and again, every time I reload this, this is going to give me a new number, right? Because we're in our dev mode, or this is calling our dev mode essentially. But if we go and we look at our network tab here, so we want to look at this comments that was requested. Here is the response, or here are the headers that we got back. So the cache control here is max age 0 must revalidate. That's because it's in our dev sandbox. We automatically override that. We don't want you caching anything that'll just confuse you. But what we do show is this X cache control, which is telling you, okay, this is what I was actually trying to respond with. So you have max age public. Okay, so this is why this is really, really cool. I'm going to go down to this, back to my dashboard, or back to the CLI, and I'm going to deploy this to prod. Now we had already set up a prod instance. If you remember, if we go to our dashboard here, we have our prod instance right here. Okay, we are in the process of running a deployment on the prod instance right now. So we'll go ahead and let that finish running. And hold on one second. Okay, so while this is deploying, all right, so this is deployed now. So now we have this blazing, this thing here. So this will load. Okay, so here we go. Gonna make this a little bit bigger. And this should be, oh, this is probably the old version because it just deployed. So let me, no, this should be the new version. Let's see what we've got here, why we're not seeing that little snippet. I have that commented out there. Why is that commented out? Looks like we're missing some styles or something here. That's weird. Go back, let's double check. Index, so this should be live there. Not sure why that didn't build right, but we'll try it again. Looks like it deployed a slightly older copy. Okay. Those are all written. Eleventy static site style, should have ran all that. Okay, and then our most recent one's deployed in blazing binary. Refresh this. Okay, what did I do? All right, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to, because we are running this, I'm going to create a preview of it and try it that way and see what we're doing wrong here. Blazing binary. Okay, this is our developer sandbox, which is why we're getting those refreshes there. All right, let that go ahead and create that new preview for us. Give that a second to go. I know we are way over time, so give me a couple more minutes. Couple more minutes of your time. I want to get this working and show you how that's going. So, so this is again spinning up a new environment. I don't think I didn't do something wrong here. It's quite possible that I did. Human error is inevitable. All right, so we've got the sleek deploy. Let's try this one. Okay, what are we? What are we missing? Logged in, home. So it's not generating that dash. So is it, what? Am I like deploying something? I'm just gonna, it's like it's not deploying the right version of my code, which is not, clearly not what it's supposed to be doing. All right, so here's my local host. Here's my dashboard. Oh, okay. So wait a minute, what did I do? Did I mess something up here? Go back to index. What did I do? Did Eleventy overwrite my thing there? Let's try this again. Okay, I don't know what, okay, I'm just gonna try something quickly here, because this could be my Eleventy configuration that I might have done something wrong, that I'm overwriting that index file, or did I just like, was it some sort of weird file issue? I don't know. Anyways, okay, let me fix this now. So I'm not sure why that did that. But let me check my index.tsx file here, and this should be loading text purple. Oh, you know what? Okay, I got some ideas as to why this might not have worked. So this is looking at TSX, right? We want this to look, or at TS, we need this to look at TSX now. So when I come over here and refresh, now I should have my dashboard and that. Okay, so that, all right. All right, this is just me switching around things and doing dumb things. All right, so let's deploy this to prod again. Try it this time. So I don't know why this got overwritten, but I get why the other things weren't working correctly. Okay, so that should be good. So then we deploy this to prod. All right, it's 12:22. So this is long, but hopefully you're learning something. And by the way, this is, yes, there's some cool things you do because we're running it on or doing the deployments with Ampt, and we give you this experience. But man, check out Hono and HTMX and Tailwind, and these are just amazingly cool services that are fun to use. Okay, so go over here. Maybe this, there we go. All right, it wasn't refreshed. So, all right, so now we see that this says 614, right? If I refresh it, keep refreshing it, it's saying 614. So if we go in and inspect and look at the network here and do a refresh, all right, so we go to comments. This is the request that it's making here. So you'll see the cache control is set to max age 10. And then we'll see that there should be a CloudFront right here. So via CloudFront, and this says Xcache miss from CloudFront. Okay, so this says 227 now because we're only setting it for 10 seconds. So I refresh it, it says 044. I refresh it again, 044. Refresh it again, 044. And we go and we look at this, we'll see that we are getting a maybe that's not the right one, but this isn't a miss from CloudFront, so I don't know which one I'm looking at here. Hold on. Refresh that. Okay, so refresh 21. Okay, it's 21 all. Oh, it's not. That's why it's not recording those, and that's a fetch request anyway. So request. All right, so comments 421, 490. All right, so 490. This should be. It's saying miss, but it's not a miss from CloudFront because it's loading the same thing. So it just must be the way this is tracking here. Anyways, point is, it's doing that. So here's the cool thing that you could do with something like this that would be really, like a way to take pressure off of your servers. There's no reason why something that's a news feed has to be generated in real time or live, right? So this is something that you could do where you could have this, even if it's 30 seconds, right? How fast does the news change in 30 seconds? Even if you just do it for a few seconds, if you have like a really, really high traffic on something and you want to serve up those static files from, or you want to serve up a cached version of something, you have a lot of fine-grained control by setting some of those numbers. So you could do this personalized too, right? So we're just using a random, setting somebody's setting a cookie that gives them logged in status. But obviously you're probably going to look that up through a database, or you're going to use a third-party service like some sort of Auth0 or Clerk or something like that, and you get some sort of ID. Then you can serve up content specifically for that ID, but you don't necessarily have to refresh it every time. So you could just cache it for 30 seconds or for a minute or something like that if it was something that was maybe personalized news for the user, but you wanted to you get something different. And of course you could always cache bust that in a way by sending in like a question mark or something else that would would do some sort of cache busting on that particular route. So there are a lot of cool things like that you can do. We barely scratched the surface. There were some other things that I wanted to get to. We did some dynamic, so we didn't even get to adding dynamic data to the build steps. We didn't even really interact with any of the services that Ampt is providing for you behind the scenes, or giving you access to behind the scenes, setting up that CI/CD pipeline and doing some of those things. So there's a bunch more that I would love to show you, but we are way over time. So anyways, I hope that you learn some stuff today, and like I said, check out Ampt. Lots of really great stuff that you can do. Get your workloads into AWS in seconds. It's super fast, a lot of fun. And yeah, use your favorite frameworks. Just remember to change that TS to TSX everywhere, so that you can use those. You can use those functional components in Hono and play around with that stuff. So, anyways, all right, I will sign off for now. Please feel free to send me questions. Connect with us at AmptDev on Twitter, at AmptDev on YouTube as well if you want to follow some of these stories. And sign up. Go to getamp.com and play around with it. All right. See you next week.